Joining us now is Ojy Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Ojy.
Good morning, Dr.
How was your
Abati.
weekend?
It was excellent. How are you?
Yeah, good. We'll keep improving.
Yes, we do. We do. Good morning, Tundu.
Morning, Ojy.
Lovely Naomi Campbell.
You're feeling it.
Yes, I am. Always.
I like your cornflower blue.
Oh, thank
it's
you.
my favorite shade of blue.
That's what it's called. It's the same as the morning show. It's always my favorite color. Good morning, Rufai. I can hear you. How are you?
Ojy.
That's it? I thought there was more coming.
I was waiting for the start button.
Ojy, baby,
Okay. Rotus is not going to be happy with you. You know that, right?
He can beef.
Okay. Rotus, I hope
He can beef all he wants.
Take note, Rotus. Good morning, Rufai. How are you?
Morning, how are you? How's your weekend? Hope it was
Great, thank you. Well, good morning to you, viewers. We begin What's Trending with a video recording of a raid by the Nigerian police of citizens flouting the directives on face masks imposed by the federal government. In the video, a man and his pregnant wife were arrested for not wearing their masks, even though they claimed to have left their masks in the car. The pregnant woman explained to the police that she was in desperate need of the bathroom given her condition. The police, however, ignored her request until she peed on herself. Let's take a look at this video before we come back for a discussion.
Are you closer than that? Are you closer? Are you mad? Yes, you want to my children are inside the car and I grew up and just my children are inside the car. Why is that here? What is this an embarrassment. This an
This upset me over the weekend when I saw this video. I don't understand three things. First, the woman was saying that she had her children in the car. The police did not even care about that. They wanted to just arrest this woman. And then she peed on herself. I don't understand what's going on with the police.
It is extremely upsetting, and those officers have to be identified and disciplined. They are an absolute disgrace to the uniform that they wear. And did you notice how they were not even wearing a face mask either? And can we talk about the idiocy of requiring a woman and her husband who live in the same house in their car to be wearing a mask? So that, are you trying to say that in their home they should wear a mask? The mask requirement is for when you're out and about. It's like, it's almost as idiotic as demanding that somebody driving alone in a car must wear a mask.
Well, I think the fact is that they are outside in public, and the directive is that you have to wear a mask.
Well, when they are asked,
public.
well, this is the point of initiative and the point of an intellect. When you question them and you discover that they are a married couple, the woman is pregnant with children in the car, you cannot apply the same rules. It's not one size fits all. Surely you have to have initiative. People who live in the same house, like I live in a house with my family members, when we get in the car and we all wear our mask, we can do that. But if we don't do that, it's not the end of the world. Wearing your mask is supposed to be when you haven't been isolating with those people, you're in public with those people, then you wear your mask. They live in the same house. So when they're in their bedroom, are they going to wear a mask? How ridiculous is is this?
What it is the fact that they are in public. It's not the fact that whether or not they're going to infect each other or not infect each other. It's infecting the people outside.
No, but when they're questioned,
exactly,
it should be relevant. They should just be told, next time do this. It's not that big of a deal. It's not the end of the world. Where this pregnant woman had to be treated in this fashion, heavily pregnant. That baby was sitting on her bladder.
Uncalled for.
If she says she needs the loo, she does.
And this is the training that the police needs to understand. Women, especially women. Not that I'm saying that we're the weaker sex or anything. The other day we saw a video of this policeman flogging a woman because I don't even know the reason why he was flogging the woman. But how do you flog a woman for no just cause?
It's barbaric.
Well, this is a classic case of police brutality, police heavy-handedness. And should anybody be surprised? On many occasions on this program, we have had calls, either when interviewing persons or looking at specific episodes, to complain about the brutality of sections of the police, whether it's the Special Anti-Robbery Squad or any other unit within the police. And we've also talked about policing in the season of COVID-19. Only this morning, we were referring to how security challenges have even gone worse in the season of COVID-19 on account of the high-handedness of security officials. Now, I absolutely agree with the point of view that the police authorities should take a special look at this video, identify those officers. Yes. What we're told ordinarily is that the police is your friend. But the policemen in that video, they were behaving like the enemies of the people. And there must be a protocol in place in terms of how the police can help enforce guidelines, COVID-19 guidelines. And I hope that whatever that protocol is, it does not include telling a citizen, are you mad? Are you crazy? As they were saying there. So the aggressiveness was uncalled for. More so as the policemen themselves are lawbreakers. Some of them were not even wearing masks.
The same
masks that they insist that citizens should use. Now, the fact that they wear the uniform does not place them above the laws of the land. My fear, my genuine fear, is that this is likely to get worse. Because now in Lagos State, we're being told that from this week or next week, persons who do not wear the face mask will be apprehended by the police. If this is standard practice among members of the COVID-19 task force and the police in Nigeria, then we're likely to see more cases of this. And I think that to counteract that, persons who are subjected to this kind of humiliation and violence, if you like, uniform sanctioned violence, should press charges and insist on their rights not to be assaulted.
Very well said. Rufai, I'd love your comment on the story.
First, I want all those police officers in that video to be prosecuted and to be put in isolation. Because most of them were not wearing the mask. They were speaking. I could even feel the sputum from the effluence from their mouth here. And the woman too should go and do a test because those guys might be carrying COVID-19. And it's just a free spread. And I wonder how we behave in this country. I don't want to believe it's poverty. I don't want to believe it's poverty. There's just something wrong. There's just something wrong. Anyway. You talked about the fact that police is your friend. Police is not your friend. I'm sorry to say that. Just like they say bail is free, bail is not free.
Well, on that note, we'll need to take a short break. Ojy Okpe is still here with What's Trending. When we return, What's Trending will continue. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us here is Ojy Okpe with What's Trending around the world. Over to you, Ojy.
Thank you, Dr. Abati. All right, well, let's take another story. A new report by the World Bank detailed the annual economic losses caused by Nigeria's unreliable power supply to be estimated at 10.1 trillion naira. According to the report, Nigeria ranks 131st with respect to the overall ease of doing business in the World Bank's Doing Business 2020, with getting access to electricity ranked as one of the major constraints. The World Bank described the power sector, particularly the distribution segment, as operationally inefficient with high losses. The report also added that with respect to getting electricity, Nigeria ranked 171st globally out of the 190 countries surveyed and 33rd among 46 Sub-Saharan countries, Sub-Saharan African countries. I mean, when I saw this report, I was flabbergasted. It's a damning report to start with. I was like, what is happening? 33rd out of 46 Sub-Saharan countries. What are these countries doing that we're not getting right? I mean, and we call ourselves the giant of Africa. What are the challenges that we're seeing here? I mean, what's going on here? First of all, they talked about, low investment in infrastructure by all players in the electricity value chain. They also talked about the weak regulation as well and the inconsistency in implementation of a comprehensive roadmap for the electricity chain. I mean, it's really a damning report, and I think that we need to do better as a country.
That's exactly where my mind went. You come 33rd in class and you're calling yourself the giant of Africa. I mean, really. But for me, we all know this electricity situation has cost us so much as a country in terms of lives. We cannot start to count people we even might know personally who have been smothered by generator fumes or been burnt when they try to put on their generator. We know what it costs the Nigerian economy because the prices of our goods that are produced here are high because we don't have electricity. People have to provide their own power. It costs us so much. So to actually have a figure put on it, 10.1 trillion naira, is so sobering. It's like a slap in the face. Corruption, inefficiency, ineptitude, we pay a price for that.
A huge price.
Yes, it's awful.
For me, I think the strongest point made in the World Bank report is the linkage between the electricity sector and the rate of poverty in Nigeria.
Yes.
And it goes without saying that if there is irregular electricity supply and access to electricity is denied for the most part, and many businesses, particularly small and medium-scale businesses, are relying on generators, then, of course, there will be issues, as we have seen, in terms of productivity and in terms also of, the poverty indicators. And that's what we've been going through. Almost every home is running on generator, and then the electricity is not even available. Where is the problem? In part, the absence of the political will, some people will say. But if you step back, you see that we've come a long way in terms of trying to reform the electricity sector, from the days of NEPA to PACN, to the commercialization of PACN, to the unbundling of PACN, to the electricity sector roadmap, which eventually led to the privatization of the GENCOs and the DISCOs. But even right now, we have issues with that privatization process. And as the World Bank report pointed out, there is problem at the point of generation, there is problem at the point of transmission, and there is problem at the point of distribution. Now, all the stakeholders continue to blame themselves. The DISCOs are blaming the regulators are blaming the DISCOs, and there isn't been any, smooth, useful conversation around the various issues. I mean, we've had guests on this program who have had to understand the issues, explain the issues. One, gas supply. There are issues in that regard. Transmission. The national grid is always down. Nigeria is probably the only country that will record a collapse of the national grid over 50 times within 3 months. The DISCOs complain about the metering regime. They complain about the tariffs. Now, only recently we were told that tariffs now, cost-reflective tariffs, will not become operational until next year. So what we need in that sector is first the realization on the part of the leadership of the strategic value of the electricity sector.
Yes.
I don't think that we've seen enough willpower to, understand that strategic value. Secondly, a technical and forensic audit, although there are some people who are opposed to the forensic audit, but a technical and forensic audit of what exactly is wrong. And then a meeting of minds among the various stakeholders to deal with this strategic resource. And then there is the problem of infrastructure. The Mambila hydro project is there, and yet it has a lot that it can offer for that part of the country. There's the Azura power project. So many issues which we cannot resolve in the course of a 30 minutes discussion. But clearly, we should see the World Bank report. As yet, another wake-up call.
A huge wake-up call.
Of the omissions that we need to address in that sector.
I mean, also with respect to the ease of doing business with our economy, I mean, that's the first step. What is your take on that, Rufai?
I mean, Dr. Bati, you said it all, but I'll just put some input to it. Azura is working anyway. Azura is working, churning out power. But the question is it enough for the people around there? There's a report that says for every 1,000 megawatts you produce in electricity, it increases your GDP by a percentile of 1 or 2%. So for the fact that we are losing production of power, then definitely the GDP will go down because everything is tied together. And that's how an economy works. An economy cannot work without electricity. And it's shocking that hundreds of years after Thomas Edison experimented electricity first in James Pierpont Morgan's house, we don't still have power in Nigeria. And it's something we should look at. Many years after privatization, we clamored, oh, government is ineffective, it can't run power. Privatize. We've privatized now. Many years down the road, the problem we still have there are the recurrent problems. So how do we solve those problems? One, we look inward. But I tell you very strongly, the system is not efficient, so investors can definitely not come into the system. It's difficult to get investors in the system we run in the power sector. We look inward. We check the Power Act. We check the laws that surround provision of power in this country. So there are myriads of problems. But I keep asking the question, do we have the political will? Because for me, doing one thing and getting the same result over and over again is the height of insanity, like Albert Einstein says. It's the height of insanity. Are we sane at all? Don't we see these reports? Next year, they'll bring the report out again. We see this way, we comment on it. Nothing is being done.
Right.
A loss of 10.1 trillion will amount to about 2% of GDP.
Of the GDP.
Right.
And that's a lot. 2% of GDP.
How will people not live in abject poverty?
Yes. The report also said that, the power sector recovery is very crucial for the federal government in terms of in response to the COVID-19 outbreak, which is a huge problem at this point. I mean, what are we doing about that?
Yeah, because post-COVID-19, you have to put people back to work.
Right.
People have been sitting at home for months, and then you ease the lockdown, they come back, they still cannot function because there's no electricity, to power small, medium-scale enterprises that rely on electricity.
It's so shameful that even the isolation centers have to be powered by solar.
Yes, correct.
And generators. Do you know how much we spend on generators? And anyway, solar is renewable, but do you know how much we spend on generators to power some of the cooling systems in the isolation center? I think they will give us the cost when all of this is over.
Well, even the PACN offices use generator. They use generators.
Very sad report, really.
Anyway, well, nice story.
Sure. Let's head over to Madagascar now, where the country has placed its capital, Antananarivo, under a fresh lockdown following a new surge in COVID-19 infections just 2 months after the restrictions were eased. According to the president, the capital is returning to full lockdown and no traffic will be allowed in or out of the region starting today until July 20th. A strict curfew will be imposed on street movement by people, and only one person per household will be allowed to go into the streets between 6 a.m. and 12 p.m. Users on social media have reacted to the newly imposed lockdown, insinuating that the country's self-proclaimed COVID-19 cure, COVID Organics, have failed. Well, let's take some tweets. One user wrote, Madagascar just scammed the whole of Africa into believing they had a cure for COVID and that they had the disease under control. Fast forward today, they have ended up imposing a hard lockdown. Madagascar played themselves. While another user posted a list of countries with low COVID-19 cases with the caption, these are all the countries that have lower infections than Madagascar, but they don't claim to have a cure. The low infection rate or low death rate has nothing to do with that tonic. It has not been proven to work by anyone, and we wouldn't say it works just because it's from Africa. In response, a user wrote, like you, I'm interested in the numbers. What disappoints me is the numbers tested in Madagascar. There are 25,000 since March and test about 500 per day. Of this, 40% is positive per day in the last 3 days. The low testing is discouraging to me. I mean, listen, this is really ridiculous. I think people that are commenting about this tonic or Madagascar cure is ridiculous because having a cure has nothing to do with the rise of infection rate. correct? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know how that has anything to do with it. Given the fact that they still have very low death rate, I am always still in support of traditional medicine. I don't think that it shows in any way that their self-proclaimed cure does not work because they have a spike in infections. And I think that the president is doing, absolutely the correct thing to impose another lockdown if he believes that the spike, I mean, I believe on Saturday alone, they had about 261 cases in one day. I mean, it's understandable that they should impose a lockdown if they feel like it's necessary.
I agree with you, Ojy. I just don't see the point in mockery at this point. It's not, COVID-19 is not a moral indictment. It's not an excuse to make fun of people. Yeah. I mean, lots of countries, I was trying to have this conversation with Aaron earlier, but we didn't have time. Okay. Spain, most recently, has had to impose a lockdown on a particular area. A part of the UK, Leicester, they've had to have a lockdown. Australia, it happens, and it's sad, and it's just the way the virus is, and we continue to learn about it. There are no experts when it comes to COVID-19. But with regards to the cure, I mean, I was rooting for the cure coming from Africa, but a few days ago, our Minister of Health said that it's mainly composed of Artemisia, which is anti-malarial. Yes. So I'm not that thrilled about the cure anymore, now that it's been scientifically tested. But I'm still hoping something else can come from Africa, because we shouldn't be so quick to condemn ourselves in this fashion. I really don't. I don't see the point in that.
What has happened? Well, we have.
No, go ahead. Yes, chat, and then we can always come back to continue.
Then I'll come back to the subject. Yes. Now, clearly, I mean, what has happened in Madagascar is not surprising. In every country where you have had the easing of the lockdown, there has been a spike in the number of infections. Correct. Be it the United States, New Zealand, or Italy, or wherever. And in Madagascar, what they have total is 2,941 confirmed cases, with just 32 deaths and over 1,000 recovery rate. So if you look at the recovery rate, it's still very high. But many people will show interest in the Madagascar story because President Rajoelina had given the impression that COVID organics will serve not only as a prophylaxis, but also as a cure. But the WHO can claim to have been vindicated because WHO was very clear in saying that there is no cure and that COVID organics is not a cure for COVID-19. However, the government in Madagascar has taken very serious steps to lock down and to say that only one person per household will be allowed to go out for the next 20 days to see how the prevalence can be reduced. But let's take another short break now. When we return, what's trending with Ojy Okpe? We continue. Come back to the morning show here on the Arise News Channel. Still with us here is Ojy Okpe, which was trending from around the world. Well, before we went on break, we were talking about Madagascar. Yes, but you will recall that even apart from the WHO, there were, health workers, medical scientists in Madagascar who also insisted that COVID organics, otherwise known as CVO, was not meant as a cure for COVID-19. Well, donations were made to 26 African countries, including Nigeria. I asked a question the other day, okay, what is going to happen to the COVID organics that came to Nigeria? And I was told, the minister had said, well, it's basically a malaria mixture. But even then, malaria is still endemic in Nigeria.
Yes, it is.
So how are they going to distribute the COVID organics? Even if it's just a herbal drink, which state will get what? Exactly. I think we should know. Or are they planning to return the consignment to Madagascar, having seen that there is no serious connection with COVID-19?
I don't think they should. I don't think they should return it at all. What do you think, Rufai?
It's quite shocking and it's quite very painful. So I have a very different opinion as regards this. I know once you open up the economy, you have more cases, but I have qualms with Madagascar on this. You don't make Africa look even worse. The West doesn't buy the African narrative, we know that, but you don't make Africa look even worse. They said this was brought out by the research body in Madagascar.
The Institute of Medical and Applied Research.
Institute of Medical and Applied. Didn't they know that it was artemisinin for malaria? They didn't know that was the major consequence. What major test did they do to see that this works? Because you know why I'm pained? I feel like I've been hit by a smooth criminal. I was rooting for this drug to work. I wanted it to work. I wanted Africa to be on the world map. I wanted to show them. But I feel hurt now.
Can I ask you something? Do you think that the US or Europe or whoever looks worse because hydrochloroquine has been dismissed?
That's another point.
Do you think that they look ridiculous now that they have found that, oh, a lot of people who died in their hundreds of thousands may have lived if we did not rush to ventilate them the way they did? Do they look worse? Why is there a higher standard for Africa? It's all trial and error.
Yeah, they look worse.
No, they don't. They're trying. It's it's a novel coronavirus. They're trying.
Sundu, let me say something. You see, I'm a science major. I did animal physiology and anatomy in school, so I know about research. You can't put out a categorical statement when you have evidence. If you look at the trial papers about hydroxychloroquine, you would see that there was a work rate percentage and there was a failure percentage.
Okay, I have a question for you, Rufai.
Hang on a minute, Ojy. Yeah. But hook, line, and sinker. Rajuelina came out to say that this is the cure, not even based on empirical tests. I do research. I did that by physiology and anatomy.
He can say whatever he likes. It's up to everybody else to do the testing.
He can say whatever he likes.
I don't think he looks any worse than anybody else who has tried and failed.
I know. He can
including China.
He can say whatever he likes.
Rufai.
But there are empirical proofs.
Rufai, what proof do you have that this COVID organics does not work? And again, they did say that it was a plant-based mixture of Artemisia with cure for malaria. Then their recovery rate is very high.
Ojy,
so
is malaria COVID?
No. Malaria, but what proof do you have that it's not working? I mean, because they imposed another lockdown and they had a spike.
The truth has to be said. Malaria is not COVID.
I just don't like Africans. I don't like Africans being so quick to mock Africans.
You're
not mocking, but the tweets were mocking. I don't like that. We should not be so quick to mock ourselves. We have to encourage one another.
That's why I keep saying that let us do empirical work on Dr. What is it called? On Professor Iwu's recipe for this. And if it's proven to be useful, let's use it. I am one of those today that still feel bad that we never gave Dr. Abalaka the light of day when he said he had something for HIV/AIDS. That we never heard Dr. Abalaka out. I am one of those that still feel bad for it.
Yeah, because we're quick to condemn Africans.
But there are empirical things we should also put in science and research.
On COVID organics, I think the World Health Organization settled the matter long ago when, after subjecting it to clinical trials, the WHO issued a statement to say that, look, COVID organics is not a cure for COVID-19 and that no cure has been found yet. Even in terms of case management protocols, scientists and health workers, they are still foraging for the right approach.
Dexamethasone, what's it called, that's come out. A lot of people are criticizing that they rushed to announce it.
True.
Why would you rush to announce it? You're supposed to test. But there is a hurry. We are facing a pandemic.
Correct.
So the normal protocols have been shortened.
But Sundu, they didn't rush to announce dexamethasone.
Yes, they did. They've been criticized for that. I'll send you some links.
I know. Hang on a minute, Sundu. They said he had a pass rate of 30%. It wasn't that it was holistic. You see, when we are dealing with science, let's look at the empirical facts.
No, what was said was that it works for particular cases, critical cases. But they've been criticized for rushing.
But they said, I get that report, but they said it was just 30% of the cases. You see, when you're looking at case files of research, look at the empirical parts. The research, it worked for 30%. It doesn't mean it's working across board. I'll give you an instance. There's a malaria vaccine. But you know why they've not pushed a malaria vaccine? It only had 50% viability rate, so you can't push it out.
Well, Ojy, can we move on to the next topic?
Sure, we can.
Because it looks like there will be
Did you have something to say right before?
I did, but
yes.
Okay.
No, you can. All right. Okay, no worries. Well, let's head over to the U.S. now, where Grammy Award musician Kanye West has stirred up social media when he announced on Sunday that he'll be running for the President of the United States. The announcement, which he shared via Twitter, has been met with both support and derision, with many Twitter users questioning if the musician would actually run. Over the years, Kanye had expressed interest in running for the presidential seat without following through. However, now it is evident that with approximately 4 months left to the November election, Kanye will not be able to get listed on the ballot in several states. It's unclear if he would run as an independent candidate in the other states or run in a later election. I mean, this is ridiculous. When I read, the first thing I did was bust out laughing. It's not the first time we're seeing Kanye coming out to say that he's running for the presidential seat. And I don't understand what he's trying to do. He's friends with Donald Trump to start with. I mean, what happened there?
But did you hear the theory that it's because of his friendship with Donald Trump? And, he loves that MAGA hat. And he said it made him feel like a superhero. Apparently, the theory is that he's been thrown in to dilute the black votes that might otherwise have gone to Joe Biden.
Yes.
So he's been used in quite as a pawn, according to some people. But I do think that this had better not be a publicity stunt. He had better not come and announce, because it's going to lose all credibility and look even more ridiculous than he normally manages to. Because if he comes to announce that he's launching something, he will look, Kanye West's credibility, in my eyes, is basement level. It's subterranean. But it's going to fall even lower. He will look pathetic at this point. He had better run, and he will lose.
I know that's what he's
doing.
This
is not the first time he's saying that he's interested in the presidency of the United States. Yeah. In 2015, he said he will run. In 2020, he said he will run in 2020. Then he changed his mind. He said, he will now run in 2024. Now he's come back to say he's running. How will he do it? He doesn't have a campaign platform. The deadline for independent candidacy in most of the states has passed. Even if he wants to get the required number of signatures, he may not be able to do so between now and the election time. And what is even clear with his declaration is that he's still at heart a Trump person, a Donald Trump supporter. You may be right that he's trying to just do publicity stunts to campaign for Donald Trump at the end of the day. But he has the support of his wife, Kim, right? And then he has the support of Elon Musk.
Elon Musk
who says, you have my support. But in any case, the beauty of America is that there is free speech. And you can aspire to be anything. But the presidency of the United States requires a very strict process and a lot more than just Kanye West grabbing the headlines.
Yeah, he's
and saying he wants to be president.
Like you said, they have not even filled the necessary paperwork to run for presidency. Rufai, I'd love a quick comment, really.
I'm so with Tunde on this. I'm so with Tunde on this. If he tries this, his popularity that is already down will go under. And Elon Musk supporting him. Elon Musk will support anybody at this point in time.
So that he can
anyway,
trend. Why not?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abati. Thank you,
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.